The ballroom fell silent. Every eye turned toward the entrance. Kate Middleton stood at the top of the grand staircase, her emerald gown shimmering under the chandeliers. But it wasn't the dress that made everyone stop breathing. It was what sat on her head. Or rather, what didn't. Instead of a tiara, Kate wore something no one expected. A delicate silver headband. Simple, modern, almost playful. And in that moment, the entire royal family knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't just a fashion choice. This was a statement. But to understand why this moment mattered, you have to go back 3 weeks. To a private meeting, to a rule that was never meant to be broken, and to the woman who tried to make sure Kate would never outshine her again. Before we continue, if you love real stories about courage, cleverness, and people who refuse to be silenced, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in early spring. Kate had been summoned to Clarence's house. The invitation came through formal channels, which was unusual. Normally, family matters were handled with a phone call or a casual tea, but this was different. This was official. When Kate arrived, Camilla was already seated in the drawing room. The Queen Consort wore a navy suit, her expression calm but firm. A cup of tea sat untouched in front of her. She didn't smile when Kate entered. "Thank you for coming," Camilla said, her voice polite but cold. "Please, sit." Kate took the chair across from her. She could feel the tension in the room. Something was wrong. She just didn't know what yet. Camilla folded her hands on her lap. "I wanted to speak with you privately," she began, "about the upcoming state banquet." Kate nodded. The banquet was 3 weeks away. A major event? Dignitaries from across Europe would attend. It was one of the most photographed nights of the year. "I've been reviewing the protocol," Camilla continued. "I think it's best if we make a small adjustment this year." Kate's stomach tightened. She knew that tone. It was the tone people used when they were about to deliver bad news, but wanted to sound reasonable. Kate asked carefully. Camilla smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I think it would be appropriate if only the Queen Consort wore a tiara at the banquet this year. To avoid confusion about rank." The words hung in the air like a slap gout. Kate blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "It's nothing personal," Camilla said quickly. "It's simply about maintaining clarity. The public can get confused about hierarchy, and as Queen Consort, I believe it's important that my position is visually distinct." Kate felt heat rise to her cheeks. She wasn't angry yet. She was shocked. In all her years as a royal, tiaras had never been about competition. They were tradition, history, a symbol of service, not status. "Has the king approved this?" Kate asked, her voice steady. Camilla's smile tightened. "Charles trusts my judgment on matters of protocol." Translation: she hadn't asked him. This was Camilla's rule, her decision, when she expected Kate to accept it without question. Kate sat back in her chair. She looked at the woman across from her. The woman who had spent years fighting for respect, who had endured scandal and criticism, who had finally won her place beside the king, and now Camilla wanted to make sure no one could challenge her, not even Kate. "I see," Kate said quietly. Camilla's shoulders relaxed slightly. She thought she'd won, but Kate wasn't finished. "And what about Sophie? Or Beatrice? Will they also be asked not to wear tiaras?" Camilla hesitated. "We'll address that on a case-by-case basis." "So it's just me." "Kate, it's fine," Kate said, standing. Her voice was calm. "Thank you for letting me know." She left the room before Camilla could say another word. Outside, Kate's hands were shaking. Not from fear. From something else entirely. Something that had been building for months. Maybe years. She had been underestimated one too many times, and this time she wasn't going to stay quiet. Kate didn't tell William right away. She needed time to think, to process, to decide how she wanted to handle this. That evening, she sat in her private office at Kensington Palace. The room was quiet, except for the ticking of an old clock on the mantel. She stared at her reflection in the window. Outside, London glowed in the twilight. She thought about all the times she'd been told to step back, to be smaller, to let others take the spotlight. In the beginning, she'd done it willingly. She understood her role. She knew the rules, but somewhere along the way, the rules had changed. Or maybe they hadn't changed at all. Maybe she'd just finally started to see them clearly. When William came home, he found her still sitting there. He knew immediately something was wrong. What happened? He asked, sitting beside her. Kate told him everything. Every word Camilla had said. Every implication behind those words. William's jaw tightened. She said what? She wants me to skip the tiara, Kate repeated. To avoid confusion about rank. William stood up, pacing. That's absurd. You're the Princess of Wales. You have every right, I know, Kate interrupted gently. But she's the Queen Consort. And technically, she can make these decisions. Not without my father's approval. She can't. Kate touched his arm. William, don't. He turned to her, confused. Don't what? Don't fight this battle for me. William stared at his wife. He'd seen her navigate scandal, criticism, and public scrutiny with grace. But he'd also seen her stand her ground when it mattered. And right now something was different. There was a look in her eyes he recognized. She had a plan. What are you going to do? He asked carefully. Kate smiled. For the first time that day, it was genuine. I'm going to go to the banquet. Without a tiara. Exactly. William frowned. I don't understand. You will, Kate said. Trust me. Over the next 3 weeks, Kate said nothing publicly about the tiara ban. She attended her engagements as usual. She smiled for the cameras. She gave speeches about early childhood development and mental health. To the outside world, everything was normal. But behind the scenes, Kate was working. She called her stylist. Not the official royal dresser, but her personal stylist. The one she trusted completely. They met at Kensington Palace on a Wednesday afternoon. I need something different for the state banquet, Kate said. The stylist pulled out sketches of gowns. Beautiful, elegant designs. But Kate shook her head. Not the dress, she said. The accessories. She explained what had happened. What? Camilla had asked. And what Kate wanted to do instead. The stylist's eyes widened. Then she smiled. You're serious. Completely. This could backfire. I know, Kate said. But it could also work perfectly. The stylist thought for a moment. Then she nodded. All right. I know exactly what you need. She left and returned 2 days later with a small velvet box. Inside was the silver headband. Delicate, modern, and completely unexpected. It looked nothing like a tiara. But it was beautiful in its simplicity. Kate held it up to the light. It's perfect. Are you sure about this? The stylist asked. People will notice. I'm counting on it, Kate replied. The night of the banquet arrived. Kate dressed in her emerald gown. She did her hair in a classic updo. And then, carefully, she placed the silver headband on her head. William watched from the doorway. You look stunning. Thank you, Kate said, adjusting the headband one last time. Are you nervous? Kate met his eyes in the mirror. A little. But mostly I'm ready. Ready for what? To remind everyone who I am? They arrived at Buckingham Palace separately from the King and Queen Consort. Protocol dictated different entrances based on rank. Kate was fine with that. It meant she'd make her entrance alone. She waited in the holding room with other members of the royal family. Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, wore a stunning diamond tiara. Beatrice wore her grandmother's favorite piece. Even minor royals wore tiaras. Everyone except Kate. Sophie noticed first. Her eyes went to Kate's head, then widened slightly. Kate, where's your change of plans? Kate said smoothly. Before Sophie could ask more, the doors opened. It was time. One by one, they were announced. Titles echoed through the grand ballroom. Guests turned to watch each entrance, and then it was Kate's turn. The herald's voice rang out, Her Royal Highness. The Princess of Wales. Kate stepped into the doorway. The ballroom fell silent. Every eye turned toward her. And in that moment, everyone understood. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a protocol error. This was Kate Middleton making a choice. A very deliberate, very public choice. From across the room, Camilla's expression froze. She stood beside King Charles, her own tiara glittering under the lights. She'd expected Kate to comply quietly, to accept the rule without question. She hadn't expected this. Kate descended the stairs with perfect grace, her head held high, the silver headband catching the light. With every step, she looked modern, confident, unstoppable, and she looked absolutely radiant. The cameras flashed, the guests whispered, and somewhere in that room, someone started to smile. It wasn't a member of the royal family, it was a royal guard. His name was James. He'd been a royal guard for 8 years. He'd seen everything. Scandals, celebrations, arguments behind closed doors. He knew how to stay invisible, how to keep his face neutral, how to never, ever react. But tonight, he couldn't help it. He'd been stationed near the entrance when Kate made her entrance. He'd heard the whispers start immediately, seen the shocked expressions, watched as Camilla's smile turned rigid, and he'd understood exactly what Kate had done. She'd turned the insult into a statement, the ban into a joke, not a cruel joke, a clever one, the kind that didn't need explanation because everyone in that room already knew the story. Later, James would tell his colleagues about it, about how Kate had walked past him with that headband, her chin high, her expression serene, about how she'd greeted guests with warmth and confidence, while wearing something that cost probably 1/100th of what Camilla's tiara cost. About how she'd made simplicity look like power. Didn't just follow the rule, James would say later. She made following the rule look better than breaking it. But that conversation was still hours away. Right now, Kate had a banquet to attend. She moved through the crowd with practiced ease. Diplomats, ambassadors, ministers. Everyone wanted to speak with the Princess of Wales, and everyone noticed the headband. "Your Highness, you look lovely," said the French ambassador's wife. Her eyes flicked to Kate's hair. "What a unique choice." Kate smiled warmly. "Thank you. I wanted to try something different tonight. It's very modern. It's kind of the point," Kate replied with a gentle laugh. The woman studied her for a moment, then smiled knowingly. "Well, it suits you beautifully."
Word spread quickly.
By the time dinner was announced, half the room was talking about it. Not in a scandalous way. In an intrigued way. People were curious. Impressed even, because Kate hadn't made a scene. She hadn't complained or caused drama. She'd simply shown up differently. And somehow, that made more of an impact than any tiara ever could. During dinner, Kate was seated at the main table. Camilla sat at the center, beside King Charles. Kate was several seats down, between a Swedish diplomat and a British minister. Perfect position to be seen, but not to dominate. Camilla kept glancing in Kate's direction. Each time, her expression grew tighter. She'd wanted Kate to look diminished. Instead, Kate looked liberated. The minister leaned toward Kate. "I must say, Your Highness, you're setting quite a trend tonight." Kate raised an eyebrow. "Am I?" "Half the women in this room are already planning to ditch their heavy jewels next time," he said with a chuckle. "You've made elegance look effortless." "I'm just trying to be comfortable," Kate said lightly, but her eyes sparkled. She knew exactly what she was doing. Across the table, a duchess leaned toward her husband. "Did you hear about the tiara situation?" The Duke frowned. "What situation?" Apparently, Camilla asked Kate not to wear one. Didn't want to be outshone. The Duke glanced at Kate, then at Camilla. "That's rather petty, isn't it?" The Duchess murmured. "But look at Kate. She's handled it brilliantly. She's made Camilla look insecure without saying a single word." The Duke nodded slowly. "Clever girl." After dinner, guests moved to the ballroom for dancing and conversation. This was the informal part of the evening. The part where real connections were made. Kate stood near the windows, watching couples glide across the dance floor. William found her there. "You're enjoying this?" he said quietly. Kate smiled. "Maybe a little. Everyone's talking about you." "I know. Not in a bad way," William added. "They're impressed." Kate turned to face him. "Good. That's what I wanted." William studied his wife. "This was never about the tiara, was it?" Kate's expression softened. "No. It was about being told, I'm too much, that I need to shrink so someone else can feel bigger. I'm tired of it, William. I've spent years making myself smaller. And for what? William took her hand. You've never been small. Not to me, but to others I have been, Kate said. And tonight I wanted to remind everyone, including myself, that I don't have to be. By wearing a headband, Kate laughed. By choosing how I show up, on my terms, William kissed her forehead. You're extraordinary, you know that? I'm just done being underestimated. Across the room, Camilla watched them. She stood alone for a moment, her champagne glass held too tightly. Charles was speaking with the German chancellor. No one was paying attention to her tiara. Everyone was still talking about Kate's headband. She'd tried to put Kate in her place. Instead, she'd given Kate a platform, and Kate had used it perfectly. An older woman approached Camilla, a duchess who'd known the family for decades. Lovely evening, Your Majesty. Thank you, Camilla said stiffly. The duchess glanced toward Kate. The princess looks radiant tonight, doesn't she? Camilla's smile was tight. Yes, very modern. Indeed, the duchess said thoughtfully. You know, there's something to be said for confidence that doesn't need crown jewels to shine. She walked away before Camilla could respond. Camilla stood there, feeling the weight of her own tiara. It suddenly felt very heavy. Later that night, after the guests had left and the palace had quieted, Kate removed the silver headband. She placed it carefully in its box. William watched from the bedroom doorway. How do you feel? Kate thought about it, about the whispers, the glances, the subtle shift in the room's energy, about how she'd walked in feeling uncertain and walked out feeling powerful. I feel, she said slowly, like I just won something. You did, William said. You won without fighting. Kate smiled. That's the best kind of victory. But what Kate didn't know yet was that her victory was about to become something bigger. Because James, the royal guard, wasn't the only one who'd noticed what happened. Someone else had been watching too. Someone with a very different kind of platform, and what happened next would turn Kate's quiet statement into a global conversation. The story broke 2 days later. Kate was having breakfast with her children when a private secretary knocked on the door. The woman's face was flushed, her eyes bright with something between alarm and excitement. Ma'am, you need to see this. Kate took the tablet. On the screen was a headline from a major fashion magazine, Princess Kate's headband heard round the world, a masterclass in modern royal power. Below it was a photo from the banquet. Kate descending the stairs, the headband catching the light, her expression serene and confident. Kate scrolled down. There were more articles, dozens of them. Fashion blogs, news sites, social media posts with millions of views. Everyone was talking about the headband. But more than that, they were talking about why she'd worn it. Someone had leaked the story. About Camilla's request. About the tiara ban. About Kate's response. Kate's secretary cleared her throat. There's more. She pulled up a video. It was from a popular royal commentary channel. The host was speaking directly to the camera, her tone admiring. Let's be clear about what happened here, the host said. Kate was told she couldn't wear a tiara because it might make the queen consort look less important. Instead of complaining or causing drama, Kate showed up with a simple headband. And you know what? She looked better than everyone. The video had 12 million views. Kate set the tablet down slowly. How did this get out? Her secretary hesitated. We're not sure. But ma'am, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. People are calling you a genius. They're saying you handled it with grace and humor. William appeared in the doorway. He'd seen the news too. Are you all right? Kate laughed. She couldn't help it. I wore a headband. And now I'm a genius. You turned an insult into a fashion moment, William said. People love that. Kate wasn't thinking about fashion. She was thinking about Camilla, about how this story made her look petty, insecure, threatened by a younger woman. This is going to make things difficult, Kate said quietly. William sat beside her. You didn't leak it, no, but I benefit from it. That's not your fault. Kate looked at her husband. I need to fix this. Fix what? You didn't do anything wrong. I know, Kate said. But if I don't say something, this becomes a story about conflict, about competition between me and Camilla. That's not what I want. William studied her. What do you want? Kate thought about it. About the woman she wanted to be. The princess she wanted her children to see. The leader she hoped to become someday. I want people to know I didn't do this for attention, she said finally. I did it because I needed to remind myself that I have a voice, that I matter. But I don't want to hurt anyone in the process. William squeezed her hand. Then tell them that. Kate nodded slowly. I think I will. That afternoon, Kate made a rare personal statement. Not through the palace press office. Through her own social media account. It was short, honest, and quintessentially Kate. I'm overwhelmed by the kind words about the state banquet. The truth is, I simply wanted to try something different. Fashion should be fun, not stressful. I have deep respect for tradition and for every member of our family. I hope we can all agree that what matters most is the work we do, not what we wear while doing it. She posted it with a photo of herself at a children's hospital visit. No headband, no tiara. Just Kate in a simple dress, holding a child's hand. The response was immediate. Supportive comments flooded in. People appreciated her grace, her humility, the way she diffused the situation without throwing anyone under the bus. But the most important response came privately. That evening, Kate received a message. From Camilla, would you have tea with me tomorrow? Kate stared at the message. Part of her wanted to decline, to avoid the awkwardness, but another part of her, the part that believed in resolution over resentment, knew she had to go. She replied, Of course. What time? The next afternoon, Kate returned to Clarence's house, the same drawing room, the same formal setup. But this time, the energy was different. Camilla was already seated. When Kate entered, she stood, a gesture of respect she hadn't made last time. Thank you for coming, Camilla said. Kate sat down. Of course. For a moment, neither woman spoke. The silence was thick with everything unsaid. Finally, Camilla broke it. I made a mistake. Kate looked up, surprised. Camilla continued, her voice careful but genuine. I was worried about perception, about how things would look, and I let that worry turn into control. I tried to manage something that didn't need managing. Kate listened, saying nothing. I know you didn't leak the story, Camilla added. But I also know why people responded the way they did. Because what I asked you to do was wrong. It was insecure. And you handled it with more grace than I deserved. Kate took a breath. I didn't want this to become a public thing. I know, Camilla said. Your statement made that clear. You could have made me look terrible. Instead, you took the high road. Because I don't want us to be enemies, Kate said simply. I never have, Camilla met her eyes. For the first time, Kate saw vulnerability there. I've spent so many years fighting for respect, for acceptance. And sometimes I forget that I'm not fighting anymore, that I've already won my place. Yeah, Kate said gently. No one questions that. Except me, apparently, Camilla said with a dry smile. Kate smiled back. We all have moments of doubt. Camilla poured tea for both of them. A peace offering. I want you to know that I won't make requests like that again. You should wear whatever you want. Tiaras, headbands, or nothing at all. Kate laughed softly. I appreciate that. They drank their tea in a more comfortable silence. Not quite friendship, but not conflict either. Something in between. Something workable. For what it's worth, Camilla said after a while, the headband did look stunning. Kate's eyes twinkled. I thought so too. When Kate left Clarence's house that afternoon, she felt lighter. The tension that had been building for weeks had finally released. She'd stood her ground. She'd made her point. And she'd done it without destroying a relationship in the process. But the story wasn't over yet. Because across London, in a small flat near Westminster, James the Royal Guard was writing something. Something he'd been thinking about since the night of the banquet. An account of what he'd witnessed. Not gossip. Not scandal. But observation about a woman who'd been told to be smaller and chose. Instead, to be different. And when he posted it the next morning, it would change everything one more time. James had never posted anything about his work before. Royal Guards didn't do that. They stayed silent. They protected. They observed but never shared. But something about that night had stayed with him. Something he couldn't shake. He'd seen Kate walk into that ballroom with her head high, wearing something so simple it almost looked like defiance. And he'd watched the room respond. Not with mockery. Not with scandal. With respect. That's what he wanted to capture. Not the gossip. Not the drama. But the moment itself, the quiet courage of it, so he wrote it down, in his own words. Posted it anonymously on a forum where palace staff sometimes shared their experiences. I've been a royal guard for 8 years, he began. I've seen protocol followed and broken. I've seen royals at their best and worst. But I've never seen anything quite like what Princess Kate did at the state banquet.
Oh.
He described the entrance, the silence, the headband. The way Kate had walked through that room like she owned it, not because she was trying to dominate, but because she refused to diminish herself. She didn't fight the rule, James wrote. She just made following it look more powerful than breaking it. That's genius. That's leadership. That's what makes someone truly royal, not a crown, but the confidence to show up exactly as you are. Posted it and went to bed, expecting nothing by morning. It had been screenshot and shared 10,000 times. By afternoon, it was on major news sites. Royal Guard breaks silence on Kate's headband moment. By evening, it was everywhere. Kate saw it while getting ready for an engagement. Her stylist showed her the phone, her expression nervous. Ma'am, you should see this. Kate read James's words slowly. She felt emotion rise in her chest. Not embarrassment. Not anger. Something else. Something warm. Someone had seen her. Really seen her. Not as a princess or a public figure, but as a person trying to navigate an impossible situation with grace. Do we know who wrote this? Kate asked. Her stylist shook her head. It was posted anonymously. Kate looked at the words again. I hope he doesn't get in trouble. Are you upset? Kate smiled. No, I'm grateful. Because James had done something Kate couldn't do herself. He'd explained what happened without her having to defend herself. He'd given context without turning it into a fight. He'd made it clear that this wasn't about vanity or rebellion. It was about dignity. The post went viral in a way that few royal stories ever did. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was human. People connected with it. They saw themselves in Kate's situation, being told to be less, to shrink, to accommodate someone else's insecurity. And they saw the power in Kate's response. Not anger, not compliance. Just a quiet refusal to play the game. Comments poured in from around the world. This is what modern royalty looks like. She didn't need a tiara to look like a queen. Kate just taught a masterclass in grace under pressure. The most meaningful responses came from unexpected places. Young women, professional women, women who'd been told they were too ambitious, too visible, too much. They saw Kate's headband as permission. Permission to show up as themselves. Permission to reject rules that didn't serve them. Permission to be powerful without being loud. One comment stood out. It came from a teacher in Manchester. I've spent my career being told to tone it down so I don't intimidate male colleagues. Watching Kate walk into that room with a simple headband, instead of giving in to pettiness, made me realize something. You don't have to fight every battle loudly. Sometimes, just showing up as yourself is the most powerful statement you can make. Kate read that comment 3 times. She saved it. Because that woman understood exactly what Kate had been trying to do. Not start a war. Not prove a point. Just exist fully, without apology. Meanwhile, Camilla was dealing with the fallout. The story had made her look bad. There was no way around it. People saw her as the insecure queen who'd tried to diminish a popular princess. Her advisors suggested she ignore it. Let it blow over. But Camilla knew better. Silence now would look like guilt. So she did something unexpected. She called Kate. I've been thinking, Camilla said when Kate answered, about that guard's post. About how people are responding? Kate waited. I want to make a statement, Camilla continued, acknowledging what happened, taking responsibility. Kate was surprised. You don't have to do that.
What?
Yes, I do, Camilla said firmly. Because if I don't, this becomes a story about two women fighting. And that's not what this is. This is about me making a mistake and you handling it with grace. People should know that. Are you sure? Kate asked. It could be risky. Camilla laughed, but it was genuine. Kate, I'm 77 years old. I've been through scandals that would destroy most people. I think I can handle admitting I was wrong about a tiara, Kate smiled. All right. If you're sure, I am. The next day, Camilla released a statement through the palace press office. It was short, but significant. Recent stories have highlighted a conversation I had with the Princess of Wales regarding protocol at the state banquet. I want to be clear. I made a request based on my own insecurities, not on any established protocol. Kate handled the situation with grace and dignity, as she always does. I'm proud to work alongside her, and I'm grateful for her patience with me as I continue learning what it means to be queen consort. The statement shocked everyone. Royals didn't admit mistakes publicly. They certainly didn't take responsibility for petty behavior. But Camilla did. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. People respected her honesty, her willingness to be vulnerable, her refusal to hide behind protocol. Within hours, the narrative shifted. It was no longer about a catfight between two royal women. It became a story about accountability, about growth, about two women navigating complicated roles with honesty and respect. Kate called Camilla that evening. Thank you. For what? Camilla asked. For being brave enough to tell the truth. Camilla was quiet for a moment. You know, I spent so many years being painted as the villain. I got used to it. Expected it, even. But watching how you handled this situation made me realize something. I don't have to be the villain anymore. I can just be human. You always were human, Kate said gently. Maybe, but I forgot that for a while. They talked for another 20 minutes. About the pressures of royal life. About the expectations. About the loneliness that comes with constant scrutiny. By the time they hung up, something had shifted between them. Not friendship, exactly. But understanding, respect, the kind of relationship that could weather storms because both women were willing to be honest. And somewhere in London, James the Royal Guard read both, Kate's and Camilla's statements, with quiet satisfaction. He'd been worried about posting his observations, worried about breaking protocol, worried about consequences. But now he understood something important. Sometimes breaking silence was more valuable than keeping it. Sometimes the truth needed a voice, even if that voice came from someone standing in the shadows, watching carefully, seeing what others missed, because he'd witnessed something rare that night. Not just a princess making a statement, but two women learning how to coexist in impossible roles, with grace, honesty, and mutual respect. And that was a story worth telling. 3 weeks later, another state event was announced. A gala for Commonwealth charities. Black tie. Tiara's optional. Kate's stylist called her. So, what are we wearing? Kate smiled. What do you think, honestly? I think you've earned the right to wear whatever you want. Kate thought about it, about the headband, about everything it had come to represent, about the conversations it had started. I think Kate said slowly, I'll wear a tiara this time. The stylist laughed. Really? Really? Because the point was never about rejecting tradition. It was about having a choice. And you want people to see that. Exactly. The night of the gala arrived. Kate dressed in a sapphire gown, and on her head she wore the lover's, not tiara, Diana's tiara, the one Kate had worn at her most important events. When she entered the gala, people noticed immediately. The tiara sparkled under the lights. But this time, it felt different. Not like a requirement, like a choice. Kate greeted guests with warmth. She spoke about the charities being honored. She posed for photographs with confidence. And when she passed Camilla in the reception line, the older woman smiled. Beautiful tiara. Kate smiled back. Thank you. I thought it was time. I'm glad, Camilla said, dimmed. because both women had learned something in the past few weeks. Power wasn't about who wore the biggest crown. It was about who had the courage to be authentic, to admit mistakes, and to grow. Later that evening, Kate stood on a balcony overlooking the gardens. The party continued inside, music and laughter drifting through the open doors. William found her there. He looked deep in thought, he said, joining her. Kate leaned against the railing. I was just thinking about how strange this all is. A few weeks ago, I was told I couldn't wear a tiara. Now everyone wants to know which tiara I'll wear next. William chuckled. That's what happens when you turn controversy into conversation. I didn't mean to start anything. I know, but you did. And look what came from it. Kate thought about James's post, about Camilla's statement, about all the messages from women who'd felt seen by her choice. I guess something good did come from it, she admitted. You know what the best part is? William asked. What? You didn't change who you are? You didn't become harder or angrier? You just showed people that grace can be powerful too. Kate looked at her husband. I had good examples, your mother-in-law. Kate nodded. Anna knew how to make statements without saying a word. She knew how to turn pain into purpose. I think about her a lot when I'm trying to figure out how to handle difficult situations. William took Kate's hand. She would be proud of you. I know I am. Inside, the party continued. But out here, in the quiet, Kate allowed herself a moment of reflection about who she was becoming, who she wanted to be. Not perfect. Not without flaws or doubts, but authentic. Brave in her own quiet way. Is willing to stand up for herself without tearing others down. She thought about the silver headband, now tucked away in a drawer at Kensington Palace. Such a simple thing. Such an unexpected symbol. But that's how real change often happened. Not with grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but with small choices. Quiet stands. Moments where someone decided to show up as themselves, consequences be damned. Kate had made that choice. And in doing so, she'd given others permission to do the same. The following week, Kate visited a girls' school in South London. She spoke to students about confidence in finding your voice. Afterward, a teenage girl raised her hand. Your Highness, can I ask you something? Of course, Kate said. Everyone's been talking about the headband thing. It's about how you handled it. And I just wanted to know, were you scared? Kate considered the question. The other students leaned forward, waiting. Yes, Kate said honestly. I was scared. I didn't know how people would react. I didn't know if I was making the right choice. But I was more scared of staying silent, of letting someone else decide how I should show up in the world. The girl nodded slowly. So you did it anyway. I did it anyway, Kate confirmed. Because sometimes being scared and being brave are the same thing. The room was quiet. Then another student spoke up. Thank you for that, for showing us that you can be kind and strong at the same time. Kate felt emotion rise in her throat. That's all any of us can do. Be kind when possible. Be strong when necessary. And always, always be yourself. The students applauded. Not the polite applause of protocol. Real applause. It's the kind that comes from genuine connection. As Kate left the school that day, she thought about James, the guard who'd seen her. Written words that captured something she couldn't say herself. She'd never met him, didn't know his full name. But she was grateful for him, for his observation, for his courage to share what he'd witnessed. Because sometimes, the people who change our lives are the ones we never see. The ones standing in the background, watching carefully, understanding deeply. James continued his work at the palace. He never revealed he was the author of the post. He didn't need credit or recognition. He'd said what needed to be said. That was enough. But every time he saw Kate at an event, he noticed something different about her. A lightness, a confidence, the posture of someone who'd fought a battle and won, not through force, but through authenticity. And Kate, for her part, carried the lesson with her. The lesson of the headband. The lesson that you don't have to dim your light to make others comfortable. That grace and strength aren't opposites. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to be small. Months later, at another event, a young woman approached Kate. She wore a simple headband, similar to the one Kate had worn at the banquet. I wanted to thank you, the woman said. I work in finance. Very male-dominated, I was told I needed to be more aggressive to succeed. But watching how you handled that situation taught me something. I don't have to become someone I'm not to be respected." Kate smiled. "No, you really don't. I wore this today because of you," the woman said, touching her headband. "As a reminder that being myself is enough." Kate felt tears prick her eyes. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me." They hugged. Two women. Different lives, different challenges, but connected by a single moment of courage that had rippled outward in ways Kate never could have imagined. That night, Kate returned to Kensington Palace. She went to her office and opened the drawer where she'd placed the silver headband. She held it up to the light, remembering that night, the fear, the decision, the walk down those stairs. It was just a piece of metal and ribbon, but it represented so much more: choice, dignity, the quiet revolution of refusing to be less than you are. Kate placed it back in the drawer carefully. She might wear it again someday, or she might not. Didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd learned something essential, something she'd carry with her for the rest of her life. She didn't need a crown to be powerful. She didn't need permission to be herself. She just needed the courage to show up exactly as she was, and trust that would be enough. And it always had been. It always would be. The story of Kate's headband became part of royal history, not as scandal, not as drama, but as a moment when a modern princess reminded the world what true royalty looked like. Graceful, strong, unapologetically authentic. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of the palace, a guard named James smiled, 'cause he'd seen it happen. He'd witnessed the moment. He told the truth, and the truth, as it always does, had set everyone free.